wanted to show you some of the quilts that I finished last year and the sewing that I did, and then talk a little bit about what my plans are for 2025. To start off with, I had 2 quilt finishes, both of which have been sitting on my list for quite some time. This first one is Blue Ridge Beauty from Bonnie Hunter. It's just a lovely pattern. So I think this is how I found Bonnie Hunter, to be honest, because I saw this pattern a few years ago and I thought I have to make that one day. It took me quite a while because once I got started, you're really making the same 2 blocks over and over, and it's a really big quilt. And so I would go for a while and then I just need a break and put it away and then pull it out. So it took me quite a few years. And at the end of last year, I went, I'm tired of having all these quilt tops finished. I want to get them quilted. So this was one of my finishes last year. The next one's a Bonnie Hunter quilt as well, and oh gosh, I love this quilt. This is on Provence. This is one of the mystery quilts, and again, it's a really big quilt. Looks beautiful on the bed. I love the colors in it, and just the whole making of it was a great experience. It took me a while. I learned a lot in doing this. This one really pushed me. You know, at first I used to look at quilts like this and think I could never sew something that complex, but I really enjoy Bonnie's instructions are so clear, and I learned so much from doing this quilt. To finish it though, it really sat for a long time, like just piecing the borders and putting it together, and then again, how do I quilt it? It's just really done in some straight lines, some curvy lines. It's fairly heavily quilted. I tend to like my quilts like that. And again, I finished this last year because I was not going to finish another year with quilt tops made and none of them quilted. So that's the 2 quilts that I finished. I may not be the world's fastest quilter, but you know, for me it's all about just enjoying it and having a good time, which I do. The other thing was I made this, and this is Christmas wreath. Whoops, I'll put it there. By, I think it's quiltwoman.com. Lovely written pattern, very easy and quick to make, and I made it all out of scraps. These pieces in the middle, this kind of sparkly fabric, is actually all joined to make the pieces, to make the center, and it worked quite well because it just makes it look more quilted, so I quite like the look. And I ran out here, so I used a gold, and I think it's a couple of rows shorter than what the original pattern is, but I just love it, you know. And also I put the bow at the bottom and not at the top because I kind of like the bow at the bottom. One of the things I really love is when quilters, you know, walk you through their home and they show you the quilts in the house and all the little projects they've made. I really like seeing that, and I'd like to have that more, make projects for the home. And so this year I was like, right, I'm making something, and so that hung this year. We put our little Christmas decorations all in front of it, and it's been at the front door when I walk in, and I'm really happy with it. Lovely pattern to make, and the back is just in a red and green kind of tartany pattern. I also made, there's a couple more of these. I made a set of 3 or 4. 2023, I was in a Christmas fabric potato block swap online, and I never did anything with them until this year. And I made they're just little placemats, mug rugs, wall hangings, and the back has this little Christmas squirrel fabric on it. Merry Christmas down the bottom. I like this one. It kind of looks like a little scene. I put the snowflakes, so I cut the potato chips in half to make it a bit smaller. So they were fun to make. Now the other thing that I did this year, I don't know about you, but I went through the collecting selvages, and I collected selvages for years because I was going to make that red zinger quilt from selvages. I had a huge bag of them, and honestly I just got sick of looking at them. So I decided I'm going to make something with them, not a quilt. I just was overlooking at selvage quilts, and then I'm throwing out what I don't use. I pulled out the colors that I like the best, and I made, I'm not sure if you can see them there, I made sewing machine covers for my sewing machines. So just, you know, sewed them all together in strips, turned it over, sewed a lining, and it's great because it keeps the dust out of my sewing machines. But it also is lovely when I walk in of a morning, because I usually sew out in the lounge when I walk. It's just these really bright, pretty colours that I like, and they were fun to make. I really love this one. Put that down there. This is just really big and bright coloured. Again, just sewed all the strips together and basically made a bag out of it. You know, you could actually make a bag out of it, out of selvages if you wanted. Make lots of things out of them. But I decided I didn't want a quilt. So that's great because it keeps the dust out of my machines. And I've got one more, I've got kind of another patch left. I do have one more small machine that I take when I'm traveling, so I might make a cover for that. And then I did actually throw the rest of the selvages out. I just don't want to just keep stuff for the sake of keeping it anymore, or make stuff for the sake of making it. And I thought, you know what, I'm never going to make a selvage quilt, and they're gone. But this was just fun to make this year. So, there are other quilts. I made quilt tops that I donate to charity, which I do have some photos of, but honestly, trying to put together a video and upload photos and make all that work is a bit much at the moment while I'm trying to learn how to do this. So they've been sent off, and I made one more quilt this year. It was actually, I was given a bag of little tumbler shapes, and initially a couple of years ago I sewed them. I was going to make a table runner and 4 placemats. So last year when I looked at that and I was, you know, just looking through all my unfinished projects, I thought, I don't want a table runner and placemats, I'm never going to use them. So I turned it into a really beautiful quilt, and I gave that to my son. So that was my other quilt finish. 3 quilts got done last year. What's up next year? This year, 2025, I'm really excited about 2025. I do think having a channel is going to help me get more done. And a lot of my quilting up to now has been piecing and doing sampler blocks and just learning that style of quilting, and I've really enjoyed that. But now I want to do something different. I want to try out new things, and this is my main pattern for next year. This is called Emperor's Wheel, and it's a Jurd design, and it's got foundation piecing in it, which I've never done. So it looks pretty ambitious, but I'm excited to try it. I actually bought this pattern because I was going to go to a workshop with her, and then I got sick, couldn't go. Have never been to a quilting workshop. So I had the pattern, and then months later, sometimes people give you fabric because they know you sew. I got given a box of the most beautiful Japanese fabric squares. And this is just a couple, because I could look at these all day, but this is just a couple. And so my plan is, I mean, look at that. My plan is that I can use these in that quilt pattern. You know, just beautiful, rich colors. So it's going to be really fun to learn how to do this, see if I like it. And my goal is to, that's my main quilt that I want to finish in 2025. So that's quilt number 1 on my to-do list. Quilt number 2, Laurel Ridge. That's the Quilt Show's block of the month. And I've been getting together my fabrics. Put them over there. I've been pulling from my stash to get my fabrics together. I've probably got about 4 more that I need to find, so I'll still keep looking through my stash, and I may need to get just a couple of pieces to, you know, put the fabrics together. This is a very traditional quilt. This is the pattern. This is the Quilt Show's pattern. I have not kept up with one block of the month I've ever started, and I don't even know if I've been, actually I don't think I've ever finished a block of the month I've started, and this is going to be the year that I do. I chose this because I tend to like really bright colours and patterns, but I also do like the traditional, and I'd love to have a really traditional quilt for the bed in amongst the other styles. And my goal this year is to just keep up each month, make the blocks, end the year with the flimsy, ready to quilt the next year. So that's quilt number 2 on my list to do in 2025. Now this one I got added the other day. So I have only just discovered Tasha's quilts because I saw her from the guy who sews on his roundup that he did, which was great. And behind her she has this in pinks. I just love it. It's just so interesting. And I haven't learned to sew curves yet, so I want to learn how to sew curves. And so I got this, and it's just, it needs to kind of marinate. I need to think about it for a while. I've got 2 ideas brewing at the moment for ways that I might quilt this, and like what type of fabrics and colours I want to use. I want to think on it for a bit longer, but that's on my 2025 list. Number 3. This pattern, Omigosh, Garmon. I want to make more miniature quilts. I'm someone who keep all the little triangles, and I think I'm going to make a quilt out of that one day. And I also want to keep doing the Rainbow Scrap Challenge. This quilt here was done with the Rainbow Scrap Challenge, and on that it's from a blog called So Scrappy. If you put in Rainbow Scrap Challenge 2025, you'll find it, and each month she picks a colour. You make blocks in that colour, whatever blocks you want to make, whatever pattern you want to use. You can have a couple of different styles of blocks. By the end of the year you've got lots of blocks made, and then you can put your quilt together. So I've chosen this because it's tiny. It's made from 1-inch strips, and that's going to be my RSC challenge for 2025. I think that's going to be really fun to do, and I'll probably just once a month update on how that's going. Now this one, so this pattern is called Antelope Canyon, and I first saw it in black and white, and I would like to make a black and white with a little bit of yellow quilt. However, the pattern comes, you get black and white, you get what it looks like in floral, and then you get what it looks like in these lovely autumn colours as well. And this is going to be my first start. I'm going to do it in batiks. I have quite a lot of batiks in different colours, and I think that this would look really interesting to do in batiks. So it's a Laurie Shifrin design, and I have another pattern of hers in a kit, and so this is going to be the first one I start in the next few weeks in batiks, in this pattern, so it's going to be exciting. The Quilted Witch. I'm sure a lot of people have seen this pattern. I've had this for a while, and again I just really want to think about this because I have an idea of doing it not in, like, I like it, it's pretty, but I want to do it not in the country prints, but kind of more darker, more gothic. I want to make these little squares down here, pieced blocks, so that her skirt is all patterned. And so again with that, I've just been thinking on it for a while, sometimes looking at different fabrics and thinking about how I can do this in a bit more darker way. I do want to do it this year. Probably start a little bit later when I've had time to kind of put it together. As I say, I feel like there's patterns kind of need to marinate and think on, and give yourself time to get a bit of inspiration. And this is one of them. But yeah, this is on this year's list. Quilted Witch, Laurie Holt. Oh, and that's just there to remind me, that's a little booklet I've got on miniature quilts, so I can start to put together a few miniature quilts this year. So thank you for joining me. If you think you'd like to see some of these things happen over the year ahead and watch me learn how to foundation paper piece on that project, join me, like, subscribe. I really appreciate the comments. It was so encouraging, and people have been so lovely and welcoming as I'm starting to learn how to do this on YouTube. So thank you. Like, subscribe, and my next video, I've actually made quite good progress with my 15-minute quilting on my UFOs. So some of the UFOs I showed in my first video, one of them is actually finished, a small one, and a couple of them made quite good progress. So that's going to be my next video. I'm putting that together, so after a week of UFOs, then I'll make that video. Thanks. Join me next week. Bye.